Ferrari might have just built the fastest car on the grid. 200 meters gained out of a single corner. Unmatched traction. Explosive acceleration. Pole position pace. And then, with Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel, it stopped. Final day of Bahrain testing. Full race simulation. 40+ laps into a long run. No crash. No contact. Just an emergency call from the pit wall, and silence. Ferrari called it a precaution. Vasseur called it controlled. But the telemetry told a different story. Combustion irregularities. Energy clipping. Thermal stress under sustained load. And under the new hybrid regulations, if your energy system collapses, you are not just slower. You do not finish. So here is the real question. Did Ferrari simply push an old engine too far? Or did Hamilton just expose a fatal mechanical flaw hiding inside the SF26? Because if this is structural, not situational, Ferrari is not fighting for wins. They are fighting reliability. In this video, we break down what really happened in Bahrain, what Vasseur is not fully admitting, and why this quiet shutdown could define the entire championship. Stay with me. Because the final detail changes everything. And if you care about what truly wins titles, subscribe now. Let's go step by step. Because what happened in Bahrain did not begin with the shutdown. It began with optimism. Day 3 was supposed to confirm Ferrari's strength. By that point, the SF26 had already completed hundreds of laps across the test. Solid mileage. Clean runs. No dramatic red flags. Charles Leclerc handled the morning session. 66 laps. No interruptions. No visible reliability concerns. The car looked stable. Predictable. Confident over long stints. Then Hamilton took over in the afternoon. The plan was clear. Full race simulation. Heavy fuel. Long run data. 47 laps into that program, everything still looked under control. And that is what makes the shutdown so important. This was not a failure on lap 3. Not an installation issue. Not a cold engine misfire. This happened deep into a sustained run. Exactly when thermal loads accumulate. Exactly when energy systems are cycling repeatedly. Out of slow corners, the Ferrari looked exceptional. The rear hooked up instantly. The electric deployment hit early. For the first part of every straight, the car surged forward aggressively. GPS data showed Ferrari gaining serious ground in initial acceleration. For a few hundred meters, it looked like the reference car. And that advantage matters. Under the new regulations, traction and early energy deployment can decide overtakes before they even begin. Ferrari seemed to have mastered that phase. But halfway down the straight, something changed. The electric boost faded earlier than expected. The car's tone shifted. Acceleration flattened. And the combustion engine had to carry the full load alone. Maximum stress. Maximum heat. Hamilton began adjusting. Small lifts before braking zones. Managing energy manually. You do not manage that aggressively during a clean race simulation unless you feel imbalance. Then the telemetry triggered concern. Combustion parameters drifting outside the predicted window. Not catastrophic, but trending in the wrong direction. And engineers do not ignore trends. They react before damage becomes permanent. The call came. Box this lap. Urgent. But the car slowed before it reached the garage. And when a Ferrari stops on track with Hamilton inside, the symbolism is powerful. Now here is the key layer beneath the surface. Ferrari had deliberately kept the same power unit from the Barcelona shakedown. They wanted mileage. They wanted stress. They wanted to find the limit before the season began. That decision can be defended. It shows confidence. But it also exposes the car to extreme cumulative load. If the hybrid system is demanding aggressive deployment early on the straight, and recovery is slightly behind consumption, the combustion engine compensates. Repeatedly. Lap after lap. Under Bahrain heat. So when the telemetry flagged irregular combustion behavior, the question was not just about wear. It was about balance. Was this simply an engine reaching the end of a planned stress cycle? Or was this the first visible symptom of an energy architecture operating too close to its mechanical threshold? Because the difference between those two explanations is enormous. One is controlled experimentation. The other is structural vulnerability. And Ferrari now has to determine which one they witnessed. Because if the clipping and thermal stress are systemic, not situational, then what happened on lap 47 was not an accident. It was a warning. And that warning came before the season even began. Now let's go deeper into the mechanical side. Because the phrase Ferrari used, anomaly in combustion, is carefully chosen. It avoids panic. It avoids blame. But in Formula 1, combustion irregularity is not a small warning light. It is the core of the engine. When combustion parameters move outside their expected window, it usually means one of three things. excessive temperature, abnormal pressure fluctuation, or unstable energy delivery. And under the new hybrid regulations, those three are directly connected. Remember, nearly half of the car's total output now depends on electrical deployment. If the battery drains too aggressively early on the straight, the combustion engine suddenly has to deliver full power without hybrid support. That shift is not smooth. It is violent inside the chamber. Cylinder temperatures spike. Exhaust temperatures rise. And if cooling margins are already tight, the system approaches its limit very quickly. Now connect that to what Hamilton described. The car feels explosive out of corners, then flat at the end of the straight. That tells you the electric deployment curve is front-loaded. Maximum punch early, reduced support later. From a performance perspective, that is clever. It improves traction. It strengthens launches. It helps in wheel-to-wheel situations. But mechanically, it concentrates stress. Instead of spreading energy evenly, it creates peaks. And mechanical systems do not fail because of average load. They fail because of peak load. Ferrari even brought an updated engine cover with additional cooling outlets during testing. That detail matters. Teams do not open up bodywork unless internal temperatures demand it. More airflow means more drag. More drag means slower straight-line speed. So if they were willing to accept that compromise, the heat concern was real. Now consider this under race conditions. 50+ laps. Dirty air. Higher fuel weight. Constant deployment under attack or defense. If the energy recovery system cannot replenish charge fast enough, the battery depletes earlier. And the combustion engine carries the burden again. And again. And again. That repeated cycle is what creates fatigue inside components. Not an explosion. Not a dramatic failure. But a progressive weakening. That is why the shutdown in Bahrain is so important. It did not happen immediately. It happened after sustained running. After repeated load cycles. And that timing suggests cumulative stress. Now here is where Vasseur's strategy comes into focus. Keeping the same engine from the Barcelona shakedown was deliberate. They wanted to stress it beyond a normal race weekend. To find the breaking point in a controlled environment. On paper, that is smart. Better to discover weakness in testing than in round one. But the risk is this. If the stress profile in testing resembles real race conditions too closely, the flaw may not be limited to that specific high mileage unit. It may reflect how the system behaves under maximum deployment philosophy. And that brings us to the central dilemma. Ferrari appears to have built a car with exceptional traction and single-lap potential. The chassis is stable. The aero platform is efficient. The mechanical grip is impressive. But the integration between hybrid deployment and combustion durability may be operating near its threshold. And championships are not decided by who has the highest peak. They are decided by who survives the longest. Hamilton joining Ferrari was supposed to mark a new era. Precision. Stability. Control. Instead, his first extended race simulation ended with a silent stop on track. No smoke. No flames. Just a message on the radio and a car that would not continue. That image lingers. Because it raises a simple but uncomfortable question. Is the SF26 pushing innovation too aggressively for its own mechanical safety? Or was Bahrain simply the controlled braking of a sacrificial engine? The answer to that question will define Ferrari's opening races. Because if the flaw is systemic, every long straight becomes a risk. Every aggressive deployment becomes a gamble. And in a season this competitive, even one unexpected retirement can reshape the entire championship. Bahrain did not give us certainty. It gave us tension. And sometimes tension is more revealing than disaster. Because it shows how close a team might be to the edge. And here is where the pressure starts to build inside Maranello. Because this is not just about one engine. It is about philosophy. Ferrari appears to have chosen an aggressive energy deployment strategy. Maximum electric torque early in the straight. Maximum traction out of slow corners. Immediate punch. That gives them a visible advantage in launches and restarts. If you control the first phase of acceleration, you control track position. And track position wins races. But that philosophy has consequences. When you deploy aggressively at the beginning of the straight, you deplete charge faster. If regeneration under braking cannot fully compensate, the system runs at an energy deficit. And that deficit does not show up instantly. It builds, lap after lap, until the combustion engine becomes the safety net. And combustion engines do not like being safety nets under extreme hybrid demand. Now imagine this scenario during a real Grand Prix. Safety car restart. Battery fully deployed to defend position. Driver pushing hard for several laps. Hot track. Heavy fuel. If clipping begins earlier than expected, the driver has two choices. Lift and coast to recover charge. Or push through and risk overheating. Neither option is ideal in a title fight. And this is where Hamilton's experience becomes critical. He has won championships managing energy systems. He understands deployment modes better than almost anyone. If he felt the imbalance strongly enough to comment on it, that detail matters. Because elite drivers notice micro-inconsistencies long before failures appear. And Vasseur's calm tone after the shutdown tells another story. He did not deny the anomaly. He did not overreact. He framed it as precautionary. As planned stress. That suggests Ferrari expected to find a limit. But what they may not have expected is how visible the symptoms were before the stop. The inconsistent power delivery. The mid-straight fade. The thermal sensitivity. Those are not hidden variables. Those are on-track behaviors. And rivals are watching. Because if Ferrari truly has superior initial deployment and traction, other teams will study how they achieve it. If that advantage comes at the cost of durability, the balance may correct itself over the season. But if Ferrari can solve the thermal sensitivity without sacrificing deployment, then the SF26 becomes extremely dangerous. That is the fine margin they are walking. Right now, the car looks like a machine built on the edge. Brilliant in bursts. Dominant in moments. But asking a lot from its mechanical core. And Formula One history is clear about one thing. Cars built on the edge either redefine dominance, or they break under pressure. Bahrain did not give us the final answer. It gave us a glimpse of the stress line. A silent shutdown. An anomaly in combustion. A power curve that fades too early. The ingredients are there. The question is whether Ferrari can rebalance the system before the first lights go out. Because if they cannot, this will not just be a testing story. It will be the first chapter of a season defined by mechanical compromise. And if they can, then what we witnessed in Bahrain might simply be the moment they learned exactly where the limit is.